take time, focus and it'll be fine, girl.
Hello there, my name is Stuart Ford from Stuart Ford Fitness and Martial Arts Instruction. Today's date is Wednesday the 10th of June 2020, and this is the fourth and final week of my live streamed intro series called Coach in a Box, which is designed to introduce my online services, the various ones that I do. And you've tuned into Rehab in a Box. So again, it's the final week of that, the final session. And Rehab in a Box is all about introducing the injury therapy and self-muscular-release assessments and techniques, which I can do online, and it's to help you to assess and treat those various ailments as well. Okay, so what we're doing today we are going to be focusing on the cervical vertebra area. So basically the neck, and that's mostly going to be then the posterior and the lateral areas of the neck, which tends to be the main points that we get problems and issues. This can then knock on down into the arm and to other little places. So as we do various arm movements, flexion and abduction, and even a flexion of the elbow, this can all be affected and can be part of the same issue. Even grip and wrist problems can all stem from the neck, and where the nerves come out from the neck and then travel down the arm and feed the arm. So what we'll do is we'll get some music started. Follow my telekinesis there, so off you go, and we'll crack on with this. So just say a little bit more about it. So whereabouts do we get trigger points or areas of pain with this? Well, main areas can be places where I think we looked at in the last session, which is between the shoulder blades just to the outer side of the spine here, but basically in the fleshy part down here, which I would call the mid-trapezius area and rhomboid area. But there's various muscles which attach to the spine and run up, connecting onto the skull and the base of the skull and onto the cervical vertebra. In the trapezius itself, the upper trapezius especially here, okay, so these slides here, in the upper neck here, certainly an area that we can get some tightness, and it can also accumulate into headaches. And like I said, we can have problems with the arm as well, with abduction, with the shoulder and flexion and bits and bobs. What can cause this? Well, that's always a difficult thing to say. What's the exact cause? Often we can guesstimate by looking at people's posture and what you've been doing. So your repetitive movements. But obviously, if we're spending a lot of the time sat down or with a slumped posture, or sitting down, can cause this slumped posture, this typical kind of rounded upper back, and then shortened area in the neck here, the shoulders rounded, maybe pulled forward as well. This posture, coined by Vladimir Yonda as the upper cross syndrome. It's seen very often, and it involves pretty well the same muscle groups each time. But obviously everyone's an individual, and some areas can be worse, and there can be some particular parts that need treating more than others that will help to improve that. So we looked at the basic trigger points, and then if we look at this posture and this position, we can then start thinking about, well, which muscle groups are short and which muscle groups are long. And obviously if we're rounded here and then we're dropped forwards, the muscle groups coming from the upper thoracic and the lower cervical area here are going to be in a stretched position, because you're stretched forwards. The front of the body here is going to be shortened. So it's a simple way that we can look at this to start. And although the muscles in the back are stretched, it doesn't mean by any means that they're nice and flexible. These muscles are also going to be tight because they're always under duress. So if you're always stretched and lurched forwards, it's going to be hard for those muscles to pull back, and the less they're used for that, the weaker they get, and so on. So we need to try to address shortening and contracting these muscles at the back, at least getting them to stimulate and to work. And then we look at shorter muscles. We've already addressed what shorten, the front of the shoulders here, the pectoral area. So if we're rounded like this, being hunched over means that this is shortened as well, that the neck's coming closer down towards the clavicle, the collarbones. and the back of the neck here. So we look up so that we can look forward. So if we've got this hunched posture, we have to be able to look forward to see where we're going. So this means that our chin's lifted, and then the back of the neck here becomes shortened generally. And then all the muscles that we look at within these areas which cause shortening, so which contract are going to be in a shortened state and a tense state. So those muscles often get trigger points as well, because they're so short. The muscles or fibres are always inclined to kind of cramp together and knot up. So you get these knots in the muscle. And then another area, there's this part on the front of the neck as well, which we'll get to. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to look at this first area of just this muscle under duress of the one on the back here, which wants to be able to kind of contract back, so we can get some release on that. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to stretch that muscle, but well, we are in a sense, because we're going to be using massage on that, or self-massaging it, self-muscular-release, and this is going to be stimulating those muscle fibres as opposed to just stretching them. So we could use either actually of these implements of torture. We could choose a tennis ball or a ball, something similar, to get tight into one of the areas, more localised. You could find a particular spot. You might find a rumble roller like this with little knobbles on there, quite helpful for that. Again, if you haven't got one of these, then something like a rolling pin wrapped up in a towel, or even just a towel for some areas could be a bit beneficial. So I'm just going to rest my upper thoracic area, and in between the shoulder blades basically is what I'm looking at, and you'll know that's more the more bulbous area. The tissue comes out as it wraps around your rib cage, it sits on top of your rib cage, and you've got muscles like your middle trapezius here down to the lower trapezius, and the rhomboid stretching across from the spine out to the shoulder blades as well. So I could just move around on this to loosen that up. And again, I'm just looking for those trigger points, areas that will be working. You'll know that it'll be tender, so they might not be necessarily knotted. Okay, so we'll just loosen that, and you could go from there, maybe down to a tennis ball afterwards. So again, I would just find the hump bit. So we've got the spine in the middle, we've got the shoulder blade on the outside. You don't want to be on either of those, you want to be in between on one side. So it's on the right hand side there, and I can just move up and down to loosen that area off. And you're getting the blood flowing through doing this, because you're spreading those muscle fibres, and you're letting the capillaries release, being cramped by tight muscle fibres, and the blood flow. And you're helping those muscle fibres to kind of work, to little stretch and close a little bit. And it's kind of like them doing a little workout by themselves. You can do that on both sides. On the other side there, little spin around just to show you on that side again. Then we keep the shoulder blade in the spine. Down you go, and just move that around. Okay, I won't spend too long. Again, you'll obviously spend as long as you need to feel like you've got some, maybe 75% worth of release from that first tenderness. Move around and find the best areas to work to. Okay, so you've got that to start. And then what I wouldn't be looking at specifically stretching these muscles, because they've already been stretched. What you could maybe do is just do some shoulder retractions, pulling back and perhaps turning the palms out, sticking out the chest, and just feeling that working. So that's from the shoulder side. Now those muscles, the lower trapezius, so the trapezius is like the lower part, like a long slender piece of the base of the kite, if you imagine, coming down to a point attachment to the vertebra there, and then the back up, and then it goes out to the shoulders, the sides of the attaching to the shoulder blades and out to the backs of the shoulders there, and sort of feeds into all the fascia, and then comes up and wraps over the top as well into your clavicles here, the collarbones, and then up into the neck as well. So you've got this big kind of kite like this on your back. And so the middle of the trapezius is going to be pulling my shoulders back here. The lower trapezius is actually going to help to pull my head back, but together. So it's not like I'm bringing it back like this. This would be more the upper trapezius. But if I bring the head back with the chin down, then you're getting the lower cervical vertebra and the upper thoracic vertebra to work to pull back the head here. And that the trapezius is going to be like, the lower trapezius is going to be like a rope pulling down your back to pull this back. So we're just stimulating that movement to start with. Now it might struggle going back too far because a lot of the things on the front of the body here are still tight, but just doing these movements is going to get that doing something it's not used to doing, if it's always stuck in one position. So there's our first point. So what we're going to work on next then is trying to release the front, I'd say. So I want to get more flexibility for those shoulders to be able to move back, and whatever moves the head back to release a little bit. So on the front we've got the pectoral area here. So this is pulling the shoulders in and around. So I could just release that in general. I could use again a foam roller or a tennis ball. I'd go something a bit softer than the rumble roller. It's a bit too knobbly maybe. And I could just place this under the pectoral there, and then move this around. So it's going to sort of squash that out. Or I could use, maybe after I've done that a bit and got it used to the pressure, you could go onto your tennis ball. You can pop that down and take the arm out to the side perhaps and move that around. So that's kind of doing the chest in general, but what I also want to look at hitting is the upper fibres of the pectoralis major, and they're going from my collarbone here and then stretching down. You'll feel this kind of ridge maybe, stretching down and then attaching onto the upper humerus here, going towards the lateral part of the humerus. So this line, this is going to follow kind of all the way up through the neck. So this is an important one to hit as well. It's like a chain in the neck here. Okay, so tightness in the front of the neck here, come and transcend all the way down here. And just before we go on to this, so this is something else that I think, but the head's forwards here, isn't this a shortened area? Well, we know, of course, this is going to be shortened here, but as far as the neck goes, is this going to be shortened, or is this going to be stretched? But a muscle in the neck we've got here is called the sternocleidomastoid, and it attaches at the back of the occipital here, and then stretches forwards diagonally through the neck here. It's a very superficial muscle, very much on the outside, so you can feel it easy. You can follow this this ridge. And one part then attaches onto your shoulder blade, the other part attaches onto your sternum, the sternum at the front here, the central chest bone. And as this contracts, it pulls the back of the head towards the front of the body, which then makes the chin lift up into the air. So we get this kind of almost sliding motion, gliding motion, to bring the head forwards. So this very much is a tight muscle. Although the head's up in the air, this isn't stretching this muscle. It's stretching other muscles in the neck, but this muscle here is actually a shortened muscle. Okay, so it's pulling that chin forwards. And this again is on this same line here, and we're going to look at stretching that in a moment. But if I then take this other upper pectoral muscle which is coming down, I could just take the ball onto this part of the muscle, so the upper part of the chest, and again, just showing you here as I take that down to the floor, we could just get that into the chest and stretch that out. As I've got the arm down in this position, you're kind of working through that line of muscle tissue to stretch it, and just gently working around on there until you ease that muscle off. Okay, so there's one way of doing that. And of course we've got chest stretches to open this out and help the shoulders to come back in together. So we could use a little prop like so. You could do your basic pec stretch, which is going to get your pectoralis major muscles, the lower section in general, which could be here. So we just sit ourselves up, nice and straight with the posture, head up and the chin in, and then we're going to rotate away and sink in. So rotate away from that arm and sink into the bench to stretch that chest muscle. And we could hold these static stretches for 20 to 30 seconds. Okay, so that's going to help to stretch the chest in general there. I could also have the arm just back behind me here, and I could maybe use a wall, so say I was doing the other side here. Place the hand on the wall here, and then just again use this technique of turning away from this. So I can also feel this stretching on this side here more so, but then I haven't just done the rolling on this side. So if I've done the rolling on this side first, or I could just use the pads of the fingers here to help us to stretch, and that'll elongate better after the massage has been performed. Okay, so all of these implements, it's just like you taking the place of using your hands. If you're not as confident or comfortable with using your hands to do this, or they tire out too quickly, then these are an alternative to them. Okay, so we're stretching through that line, and now we're just getting the shoulders used to being brought back into this position here. The shoulders also want to be able to come down the back, which we talked about as well. And we can do that with these overhead kind of stretches. So lifting the arms overhead is part of this same thing of bringing the shoulder blades down the back as you come back. So we could have the arms up here. I did this one from the side here. I could place the arm onto here and sink into the position. So just drop my body weight forwards, which is stretching this apart. I could also use the bench here in a similar way. So I'll take it out to a diagonal and sink into this position here. And this also means that there's a muscle group I think we did on the previous session for problems with the shoulder, is that the pec minor, which is attaching from about I think the 3rd, 4th and 5th rib down, and then coming up diagonally here and attaching onto the front of the shoulder blade. So as we bring the arm back, the shoulder blade's coming back, which is stretching this muscle all the way through here. And this again is part of this getting the shoulders back. So another great type of movement and exercise, stretch and exercise to improve this shoulders coming back. So we've looked at getting the shoulders backwards, moving back here. We also need to look then, so we travel further up into the neck. We talked about these sternocleidomastoids, which is this diagonal muscle coming from the back of the skull here, attaching to the front. So now we can just kind of feel that ridge that's coming down here. We could just massage and work through that. So again, just using the pads of the fingers. People with that are stuck in these postures, they could find that these are incredibly tender. So I've certainly worked with clients that find these very inflamed. And so there's one method. Another thing that I could do is, like, I find quite good with this is just to pinch the muscle, the big strand of muscle, and you can just pluck it up. And it feels a little bit weird at first. It might feel like somebody's trying to correct yourself and choke yourself, but as you carry on working with that, it will just release off and ease off somewhat. Okay, so you can just work up and down there. So there's one way of doing that. And then we go on to the stretching part. So we always look at this manipulation or massaging and then stretch the muscle afterwards. So what does this muscle do? The sternocleidomastoid, what you said, it will pull the neck forward. So if they're working bilaterally, it will do this movement here. Working unilaterally, so one at a time, it'll take the head over to one side. So it to a side bend, and rotationally, if my right one here pulls, it will rotate my head to the opposite direction. Okay, so it pulls the back of the head around to this right side. So it turns away from the side, so the contralateral rotation. So to stretch it, you can look at maybe trying to stretch it rather than one or two, to do all 3 planes of motion. So what would that be? Well, first of all, if we bring the head backwards, it will stretch it back here. If we bring the chin down, it will stretch it. You'll know that it pulls the back of the head forwards. And if I turn the head to my right side, then you're going to be stretching this muscle specifically through 3 planes of motion. Okay, so think, it's on the front of the neck, surely I've got to go up. We already talked about what it does, so I'll pull the head back, pull the chin down, and rotate to the same side. You're giving it its maximum stretch. Okay, so you could just hold that there. You can maybe use a hand if you wanted to help push it over to the side, and then you're not using so much work from the other side and the muscles that rotate your head to this side. Okay, so you do that, and then you can do the same on the other side. So pull back. Or what did we miss? We missed. So the head back, the chin down, and we rotated. We missed the side bend. So now if I pull my head away from this side as well, there's the 3rd plane of motion. Okay, so I missed that one. So yeah, good. That's even better. Okay, so the other side. So I can come back, pull the chin down. I can rotate my head towards the same direction, and I can side bend away. So here now we've got 3 planes of motion here in this stretch. So I'm keeping that chin tucked down, but pulling rather than here, then lifting the chin up and keeping the chin down and pulling the head away from low down here. Okay, so again, 3 planes of motion. And you can just kind of stroke down. It's good if you've got a little bit of oil or some lubricant to do that as well. You can stroke down through it as you're doing that stretch. So this will help to free this head up. Just doing these things I've done has helped now. I can feel the differences of my head feels looser to come back further. Okay. Now also so we've sort of covered first of all the back here. We haven't covered the muscles now which will stretch. So if I want to bring my chin down, I want to release the muscles in the upper cervical area, so I can release this and bring this down. So I could just, if I sort of turn around there, I could place the hands on the back of the neck here, and I could just use these to massage. So you could do like this. Using implements, tennis ball probably not. But if you're going to be stuck, especially if you've got a head far forwards here, you're going to struggle to get ample pressure on the back there. You might not even touch the ground. People will be like this, dropping their head back. Rumble roller, it's got these soft cushioned, I say they're firm, but at least there's some cushioning there. So I could just push that off to the side. I could just lie back and place this under the neck, but I would be much more inclined to turn the head off to one side. So we'll just try and get the nobles to the side of the vertebra in the neck, rather than actually on the vertebra. And then you can just gently move that around until you feel that on one of your tender spots and releasing. So again, it depends what you've got to do this kind of releasing without one of these rumble rollers. You could maybe put your fingers on a raised, like if you've got a foam roller, you can only put your fingers onto there. From this side up, easier to show, and this side. So I'm putting them through from here to the other side, just so I've got some pads that I can rest onto. So now I'm not using my strength so much to sustain the pressure long enough to get some kind of a release. And I can maybe just move the head around to feel that. I'm just kind of pinching the fingers a little bit up to get some pressure. Okay, so you could use that. And then what would be nice as well is to just use afterwards a foam roll. And this is just going to allow that back of the neck and the vertebra to stretch and pull up into the air. Remember, it's the upper neck you're trying to stretch here, but the lower neck's being done. But in this instance, we're hitting the upper neck. Okay, so that's how you could use the implements. And then what I'll be looking at doing is doing the stretch afterwards. So if I show from the side here, I'm going to pull the head back and then pull the chin down. But again, to help with that support, that pressure, put the hand on top and then just pull over. And just again sustain that as long as you feel you need to, for that to relax and stretch. So I've not got my head down here. If I do this, I'm going to be stretching the lower cervical area and the upper thoracic, which is already being done. Okay, so we see the I've got this sort of knobbly sticking out C6 to C6, C7 to T1, you'll find that people will have that the more forward this is and this humped up back here. So pulling this back, you'll see that kind of disappears and pulls away before I pull down. So I'm forcing the upper cervical muscles to do the stretching. Okay, so the upper cervical muscles we've got there, spinalis cervicus, the top of the erector spine line muscles, just kind of attaching on the cervical vertebra. So it's only going to be doing that area at the top there really. The upper trapezius, so we can't kind of stretch the trapezius as one part, but we can focus more so onto certain areas. We can certainly do that with releasing. And then the first areas that we've worked, lower down the back here, this is more the upper thoracic area and lower cervical, and that's hitting muscles like the splenius capitis and splenius cervicus, which are big muscles running down the side of the spine there, which you're going to be pulling the head back more like this again, with this kind of thing. And also you've got the levator scapula, which is running from the lower occipital here down and joining onto the shoulder blade. It kind of does this as well. So we're stretching those in the first one we did with the foam roll, and also as exercise we did bringing the arms back and helping to stretch some of those muscle groups, so certainly the levator scapula. Okay, so just a bit there. Obviously I'm going to get various people watching these, so I'm doing a little bit for laymen's and also a little bit for those of us that maybe are trying to learn a little bit more. Maybe professionals out there that are trying to, or budding professionals. Okay, so we've got one of those basic releases. Now what I wanted to go from here is into the more lateral structures. And this is very important as well. These are some of the big structures that are affecting this the upper cervical area, and that's the trapezius. We talked about the trapezius, and these are going to be some of the major trigger points people get along the sides here. We talked about the head being here and forwards, and one side of the trapezius, if it's working unilaterally, is going to be shortened if I'm in this position. But because they pull unilaterally and they to one side and bilaterally they pull backwards, even if this is the position you're stuck in, they're still shortened. The muscles still have to be in a shortened position because together they do this. So I've been able to release the side, and you're getting this pain you get on the sides here. This is definitely a postural issue that will cause trigger points on the upper trapezius. So I can release with the pads of the fingers here. This might be a very common thing that you would do. So it seems quite sucking too. Teaching you to suck eggs, but don't be afraid to get them in and have a good work around. Your fingers might tire out too quick if you're not used to doing that, watching that way of massage. So a tennis ball placed onto that area. So a little work around and think, oh, there it is, I can feel it. Because I'm saying this because a lot of people will try to do this exercise I'll show you now in this position, and then, oh, I can't feel anything. You know, if you can feel it, but if you can't get it when you're doing this position, then you're just not doing the position correctly. So what we're going to do is we're just going to lean against the wall there with the tennis ball. Because it's a tennis ball, you can slip. I'm just going to make sure I hold it in place a little bit here. And the more you can lean, so the more kind of horizontal to the floor you can get, the more scope you've got for getting into the correct position. So now I'm just working that around, listening to those areas. And again, see, I've got the bottom knee pulled forwards, the hips kind of forwards here, so I've got this backwards tilt slightly. And I've not got it entirely the weight on there, I've got the shoulder on there a bit, but yeah, if you pull, you've got to get a bit of body weight onto these areas, especially if they're a bigger muscle group, to get that pressure. So you want to try to get everything off of the wall that you can, so that just the area is on there. And then if that's too tender, place a bit of your other body anatomy, your head, or your edge of your shoulder blade here, your cranium onto the wall, as you work that around, okay? So you can work that off. And again, you can do that on both sides. I'll just do it on the one side there. And then, well, before, okay, so we'll do this stretch here now. So we'll get that main body of muscle, and then I'll go on to another more intrinsic muscle, which will affect this stretch, but you're going to feel a difference after we've done it like this to start. So I'm creeping the arm up the back, which keeps the shoulder down, rounds it over. I don't want to lift the shoulder up, so I'm keeping that down, feeling the arm at the back as far as that goes really. And then the head, take it back into position. Always try to do your stretches with good position. If I now try to do this lateral stretch with my neck forwards, I'm going to miss the muscles on the side here. So I want to get the head back before I do it. Then take that other hand over the top of the head and pull your head away from that shoulder. On there. And it's just a nice feel, especially when you've released that trapezius. So with the massage to start, you'll feel like letting go more. Okay, so you can pull that over and away from the side there. And you can do from the other side here, up and pull them over. Just showing from the back again, the arms just back against there. So we need these two directions, so a very nice way of taking that stretch to start. So the next one was talking about, which is on the side of the neck here, are the scalene muscles. So the scalenes, you've got three of them, the anterior, medial and posterior. The anterior and medial come down from the side of the occipital here, base of the skull, and they attach down to the first rib. Okay, and then the posterior, a little bit further back, as it might say, or insinuate, and that comes down to the second rib, which is obviously a bit further down, and that's harder to get to. And those muscles working together will flex the neck, so they'll pull the neck forwards, and they'll side flex the neck. So they'll also do rotation. Which way they rotate the head is a little bit controversial. Personally, I think it's ipsilaterally to the same side, but it might change with different people. But we're looking more so anyway at this lateral part of their movement. So again, as I was doing this stretch earlier, I've released here, but these muscles can be a real pain, and they can definitely lead on to issues down the arm. feel just these chains that runs down the arm, keeping everything slightly hiked up. And they'll also work for you as you try to breathe like a forced inspiration and from the top of the chest. And this kind of breathing, is, you might know or might not know, is not very good for you, and we're often trying to iron this out of people and teach them how to breathe properly. If we're breathing like that, one can lead on to the other. It's like a stress breathing, and these can become dominant. The more you do that, the more these muscles become dominant, and then it's a kind of a spiral. So we want to try to release these if we can, and again they'll also cause problems with these nerve bundles as they come down the arms from the neck, and they cause problems like the thoracic outlet syndrome. And I've dealt with clients before that have had this case, and it can be very, very tender here, very inflamed, and any touching around here can cause a lot of aggravation. So these muscles, the scalings will certainly be hard off that. So I'm just going to take a seat here to show you this stretch. Take it from this side. So what I'll do here, because we say it attaches to the first rib, is I can pin the rib down with my fingers here. And what I'll do is I'll just go to the front of the trapezius, the kind of this ridge down the neck here, and just press back into it a little bit, and then downwards, and you'll feel that knobble. And then I'm just going to take the head away from that. And it doesn't have to be much at all. Once you've got this anchored down, you'll feel, and you can feel like a stinging sensation down the side of the neck there. So if we really went for that, then that stinging would be quite rough. So being attached to that rib, it's pulling the rib upwards, and you can have a slight elevation on that rib through this tightness. You can also have subluxation, where the rib's actually lifted up a little bit, and it's going to be higher, maybe half an inch higher than the other side. So that's another technique that can be used to put that back into place, or a further technique to this stretch. But this will certainly go a long way to alleviating that. And you might find you need to hold that stretch for some time for that to alleviate. And that, just doing that now, that really feels like that's let go on that side for me. Okay, so there's the scalings being hit there. And then again, we could go back to our first stretch we did, and then pull over. And then you might find that it goes further, and then maybe it even stretches more into your, I didn't do this side of my upper trapezius. And I certainly feel now the upper trapezius is taking the brunt of it more. I think I mentioned before, if you don't just get one muscle that's got these issues in a chain. If one of them is shortened, all the other muscles in that chain are going to end up shortened, or some of them may be having to stretch more. It's going to have a knock-on effect all the way through, but certainly the ones that are crossing the same joint are going to all be in a shortened state. So when you've released one off, don't forget the rest of them in that joint, in that range, are still going to be shortened. So you're going to have to release all of them. Right, so I think we've done quite well at releasing the muscle groups that cause the shortened areas, stimulating the muscle groups which are now are generally been in a lengthened state, and all of these muscles, don't forget, they're dysfunction. So we don't need to just stop at stretching, we need to go on to some kind of exercise. And there for now. So exercise wise, laterally we have our side to side movement, which we talked about on a previous exercise, I think, for our lateral lower part, but we can just focus on this for the upper part, obviously, that we're working here. So I'm just doing side flexes and I'm sinking down with the arm to one side and stretching away with the head to the other. And I'm trying to make sure as well now that I'm not rotating or doing any sagittal forwards and back movement. You could do the leg movement if you wanted as well. So it just becomes more functional as getting the rest of the body involved. So there's the lateral movement taken care of, and you can kind of do as many or as little of those as you like, but good quality. Feel the movement working. And then we've got the forwards and back thing. So we've got our sagittal cord we was doing. I'm not worried if you're forgetting about the lower section here. There's a lot more to take in, but yeah, so just do this from the side. And again, it's a dynamic movement. We're getting the body used to these movements. After doing the stretching, getting a further range of motion, we want to stimulate and strengthen, activate the muscles. Some nice clicks out of my neck there, as you're stretching and opening further than maybe you're used to doing. Okay, so you're getting the body working together, and it's here also we're flossing. We're taking the nerves running through the foramen joints, basically the holes in the joints, and you're rather than lengthening them, they're going in the same direction. Because I shorten one area, so I'm shortening here and stretching here, but because I arch the back here, you're allowing that nerve to travel up, and then as I do the opposite, it travels back the other way. So you're just kind of like getting a string from either end, and you're pulling up and down, so it's this flossing term. So you can do them like that, but then what we want to get onto is kind of the opposite to that, is stretching the muscles and strengthening, shortening the long muscles and stretching the short muscles. So to do that, if I pull back into my posture here so I pull back with my head and down with my chin, but I don't allow my back to arch, so I keep my tummy strong, my core, my abdomen, I keep my buttocks strong, then it keeps that fixation. So as I pull back with the chin, now that can't move, I have to stretch the muscles, the tendons, ligaments, and the nerve roots. I'll show from the front here. And then I can add in as well the shoulder pull back here. So this is what I call arrows. So you can just slump the posture, so poor posture, strong posture, poor posture, strong posture, poor and strong. And you know you're getting this right if you're not sticking out your chest and we can't see your rib bones here. Pulling back. And to make that stronger as well, you could go into a prone position and just lift the shoulder blades off the floor and the head up. So I'm not trying to cobra with the back here. I'm just lifting the head and the shoulders back, and I'm trying to pull the shoulders down as well. A great one is to do from a stability ball, so lying on your tummy over a stability ball or a Swiss ball, pulling back. Okay, again you can do those, you'll find that without any kind of weights at all, just this end range of movement, if you keep the rest of your core strong, your body working against your own body. You don't need really any weights, just to do this end part. You can end up then going onto some dumbbells, some small dumbbells, and using those into a movement, especially if we're prone, it's nice. Okay, or you can do a leaning forward version here, so a bent over version. However far forward you want it to go. Okay, so lots of variations you can go on to. But that will set us up for a good start with strengthening the neck, strengthening the posture, and we start off with releasing. Okay, I think that's probably a good place to stop there. I hope I haven't done too much for you. and take it easy. You're all different, you know. Don't go too hard too fast. You need to kind of explore your body as you're doing these and seeing what it can and can't do, and then gently moving forwards, encouraging rather than forcing. So as I say, this is the last of the 4 sessions which I'm doing. If you've enjoyed them, or if you've seen anything that you like about it, then please get in touch with me. You can see my website's coming at the bottom of the screen there, so that's stuartfordfmai.co.uk, and you'll be able to find my email address and bits and bobs on there, and you can go straight to the Coach in a Box section, the page within that website, and that will tell you obviously specifically about the service which I provide. So I can do this online. I can help assess and move through this with you, making tweaks and bits and bobs, so that you can maybe get this kind of relief for yourself in your own environment there, in these little boxes that we're living in, certainly at the moment. Again, I hope you've enjoyed it, and always nice as well if you can do a subscription on the bottom of my on my YouTube page there. It would be great as well, or so I'm told. Okay, so that's me signing out. Bye for now.
It's gonna take time, focus, and it'll be fine, girl.
Trying to figure out how I'ma get out